And I'm Charlotte.
And welcome to another episode on The Grounded Drift. Though we're drifting in the waves,
We are grounded in our faith. Here at The Grounded Drift, we share how the gospel has impacted our everyday lives.
so in today's episode, we'll be talking about whether Christians must be excellent in their studies in order to honor God. Yeah, so you just took your O-levels last year, right?
Yeah, and you took your A-levels.
Yeah, I took my A-levels last year. How's your grades in secondary school?
Actually, right, my grades were like super horrible. So
Really?
yeah, because I say like in Sec 1 and Sec 2 it was okay, but the transition from Sec 2 to Sec 3, the gap was quite big, I think. So like I started seeing my grades like go down, like literally. And at like the end of the year, I failed like chemistry, I think. I got like F9.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but during O-levels, it was actually okay.
How much did you get for chem in O-levels?
For chem, B3.
Not bad, not bad.
Yeah, how about you?
For me, so I took my A-levels last year, but throughout my entire JC life, my grades were like very horrible. So the lowest I got was U. I mean, for most of my subjects, I got U, except for GP, I got a consistent C. Yeah, and then for the rest of my subjects, occasionally I'll get an S. Yeah, and then I remember like last year during prelim period,
Yeah.
I've been consistently going for bio consults for bio essays, right? And then in the end, my prelim, I got 0 out of 25 for my bio essay. And my teacher went to find me. She was like, Charlotte, what happened to you? I was like, I don't know.
But I was like, after you went for all that consult and everything.
And
then,
it's
like,
specifically for bio essays.
you put in like so much effort already.
Yeah. Oh well.
It's okay. So actually, as Christians, right, I feel like I've heard the expectation like Christians, they need to be like good in their studies, or like Christians are like always like are always like very godly and everything. So naturally they'll be good in their studies. But I think hearing from us as Christians, we are not lah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually must Christians be excellent in their studies to honor God? I think yes, in the aspect that we need to set a good example. So we need to live out godly values like discipline in our studies and humility lah. But what do you think about it?
Yeah, actually I agree with what you said about setting a good example, because as Christians we're called to be set apart, right? And I think that a way that for us to be set apart is to imitate Christ. Yeah, so when you think about Christ, who is Christ, right? He's someone who is disciplined, he's persevering, he's patient, and I think all these qualities are traits that we can learn to have. Yeah, so when our friends, right, they see us, even though our grades are not good, but they see us being disciplined in our studies, they see us persevere through, right, they will see also Christ. Yeah, they will see Jesus in us.
Yeah, and I think that helps them to know God's character better, because God to them is someone that they don't know like personally, not like we do, and that's a good introduction. I must admit though that when I was in school, I didn't set a good example, because I mean not just in like getting good results or like doing excellently, like even small things like homework, like I'll ask my friends like, oh, do you do yet? And then after that when they say they haven't do yet, and I was like, yeah, same, me too. Then I'll take comfort in that. But that's not so good, because God calls us to be disciplined, right, as you said, and I think I should be disciplined in my everyday work also, so that I can set a good example for my friends. And then doing homework, being disciplined, all these small things also like leads up to good results lah.
Yeah, that's true.
And in doing so, then I can honor God. Yeah.
So do you suggest that the attitude is more important rather than our grades? Like it's okay if our grades are not excellent, but our attitude must be excellent?
Yeah, I think our attitude in our studies academically is the most important thing, because as you said, we Christians are called to be in Christ likeness, and ultimately we should always strive to become like God lah. And I think the values that you mentioned earlier, perseverance, humility, discipline, all these are crucial traits that we all need to be in, that we all need to grow in order to be more like Christ. Actually, what do you think of these traits? Like,
I think it's important. You know, some people, they are born like naturally smart, or like naturally like good at their studies, right? And then they'll go around and be like, hey, how much you get? Hey, I got higher than you. You know, those kind of people, right? Then I think that whenever I see these kind of people, I would think, what's the point of doing so well if you have an attitude like that? So I think that if one were to have excellent grades, but he or she is very boastful, then that isn't a good testimony, right? But if someone who doesn't have good grades and yet they display attitudes of humility, discipline, perseverance, right? I think I would look up to the person and I'll be like, oh, I want to like learn from this person.
So it actually really doesn't matter if like your grades are like excellent or not, because I've also seen some people when their grades are good, like you said, they are very prideful and they boast. But then also when there are people whose grades are not good, then they start to have insecurities and they start comparing themselves to others and envying others and ultimately like gossiping about them, which is not godly characters as well. So ultimately our attitude towards studies is the most important, and our attitude actually influences people around us. So if we want to share God's love, God's character to those around us, I think living godly values is the most important. So God gave us a role as a student so that when we do well, we honor Him. What do you think about our role as a student in God?
I think that so we have different roles, right? I mean, our roles as a student, and with our role it comes responsibilities. And as a student, our responsibility is to study. And I think that by fulfilling our responsibility and not neglecting them, right, we're also honoring God. And I think stewarding our role as students can also entail doing well, but it's not necessary, you know. But I think that it's good that like when we do well, we bring honor and glory to Him. And especially if we are inclined to do well in certain subjects, we have the talent for those, I think all the more we should steward those better.
But I've been wondering, right, if we don't do well despite being disciplined in our studies and in our prayer to God, does that mean we don't honor God?
I wouldn't say so. I feel that, especially in JC, right, discipline and perseverance does not guarantee good grades. Because I think in JC it's important to identify a right study method for you. You can be very disciplined, very persevering in doing the wrong study method. You'll still get grades that are not very good. So when we don't do well, right, I think it's more important to look at our attitude. When we don't do well, do we just sit down there and sulk, complain, say that, oh, we are so terrible at this subject? Or do we identify where's the gaps that we need to bridge? Do we find our teachers for consultation? Do we source for help? Have the humility to admit that we need help? I think that's more important. And I think that by doing all these steps, right, I think we're also fulfilling our duty as like students, and I think that would honor God also. What do you think?
I think we actually come back to the topic of attitude a lot of times.
We do.
So I think ultimately your attitude is the most important. And this, even if you don't do well despite being disciplined and in everything, your studies and your prayer, ultimately it's the growth that matters, because by being disciplined in your studies and your prayer, maybe God has revealed some things to you, or maybe you've grown in values like perseverance as well. And even though the end result may not be good, it's the growth that God really looks at and that God really treasures also.
That's why I want to share a story. So last year I took my A-levels and my grades were really horrible and I was really worried. But Okay, and then I left church.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to use the extra time to study. Yeah. But afterwards I came back to church because I realized I needed God.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I also realized that whenever I met like tough situations, I want to give up, and I wouldn't want to like persevere on. Yeah, but after that I decided, okay, through this whole thing, I learned that when there's like tough situations, I need to persevere, because perseverance would then lead me to bearing fruit and also like mature in my faith. So if I were to like go through this whole process again, I would, because of the growth. So when I collect my A-level results soon, when I look at the results, I think it won't be very well, but I would be like satisfied, because I know that it was through A-levels that made me a more persevering person and a better person.
So you were like
Yep.
still like thank God and praise God despite even if results are like not what you are hoping for. Yeah. And that in itself, thanking God and praising Him, seeing His hand and His goodness in our growth, I think that also honors Him lah. Yeah. So ultimately, our attitude is the most important, and I think it's good for us to try to trust in God that He always has a plan for us, despite whether we have good or bad results. And also we trust that we have an identity in God and not in our studies, so that we don't crumble completely just because of our results. And we can take comfort in that God will always have a plan for us and a purpose for us.
So even though grades are not a must in order for us to be good testimonies, it doesn't mean that we can not do well in our studies. It doesn't mean that whatever lah, I don't need to do well, because that's not being responsible. Yeah, but also don't put too much pressure to say that I have to do well, because then you'll be putting your identity in your studies rather than as a child of God.
Yeah. Okay, so actually after talking about all this, about attitude and everything, actually then so we are called to be salt and light of the world, so how can we share the gospel as students and in our studies and everything? Yeah.
Oh, I got a story to share. Last year, so in JC there's this thing called block test. Have you heard of it before?
No.
I think my batch was the last batch to have this. So it's basically mid-years.
Okay.
And I wrote cards for all my classmates. So when I was giving out like everyone, like it's an encouragement card for them. And then one of my classmates, you know what she said? She said, "Wow, you got so much time to do this kind of thing, one ah? You don't study, meh?" Then I was like, oh, it's just an encouragement for you.
Yeah.
So when I heard that, I wasn't offended, but I was just like, so perhaps it's something that most people don't do, right?
Yeah.
Most people want to take that time to study, but I decided to take that time to write cards to everyone. And I felt that, oh, maybe they might think that, how to say, like, perhaps it might show them like, oh, because they know that I'm a Christian. Yeah, then they might think that, oh, because he's a Christian, then maybe this is what Christians do. Because in church, like, people will encourage me with like cards. So I also want to bring that same encouragement to like the people in my class.
Yeah, and that's like how God is to us also lah. Do you tell your friend this? No.
I didn't tell her that. Yeah.
It's okay.
How about you? How did you like attempt to be the salt and light?
So for me, actually, my cell actually has like a usual occurrence during exam season. We will actually prepare care packages. So before like service or something, then we'll meet up and then we will go and buy snacks and stuff, and then we will congregate. We will like come together and write notes of encouragement, like for exams to our friends. Then after that, when we go back to school, then we'll give our friends.
So sweet.
Yeah. Actually, I'm really like go with the flow. So I never actually saw like the importance in all these gifts. I just thought like, oh, okay, so a leader says, so like just do it. But actually, after some time, I realized that these care packages are actually very good for my friends, because it's not a common occurrence to see this during exam season when everybody just wants to take the time to study. Yeah. I mean, my friends also like never react much lah, but you know, it's like in these little things that I can do for them that I can show God's love to them lah. Yeah, and even if like they don't realize it, maybe this small action can maybe still touch their hearts and go a long way. And I think this is what God says when He calls us to be the salt and light of this world. So we are set apart, not just in our studies, but also to care for our friends and show them God's love. In our studies, we can mirror God's values and have a good attitude in studying to set a good example for our friends. But also on the other side, because studies and everything is very stressful, we can also show them God's love, share with them God's love through small actions like these, even if it's not the most obvious or not the most groundbreaking, but I think this small action can go a long way in their hearts. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you for watching this episode on The Grounded Drift.
Please like, subscribe, and tap on that notification button.
I'm Charlotte.
And I'm Charlotte.
And we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye!